The Lotus Method. Grow your discipline. Introduction. Have you ever pledged to a New Year's resolution with an iron will, only to find yourself back at the starting line by February? Or perhaps you've harbored visions of a healthier existence, a more resonant career, or the mastery of a new craft. Yet the relentless tide of daily demands seems to inexorably draw you away from your loftiest ambitions? It is a vexing cycle, is it not? This sensation of being ensnared, of witnessing your potential evaporate like mist, can sow seeds of disappointment and even self-recrimination. We embark with the noblest of intentions, brimming with vigor and optimism, but somewhere along the arduous path, our momentum falters. This is not merely about a missed gym session or an overlooked obligation. It is about the insidious creeping realization that we are not living up to our inherent capabilities, a sentiment that infiltrates every facet of our well-being, our professional trajectory, and our personal evolution. We are frequently exhorted to discover our passion, maintain our motivation, or await the muse's inspiration. But what becomes of us when the wellspring of motivation runs dry? What transpires when the initial ardor cools and the unglamorous labor commences? Motivation is akin to a transient spark, dazzling in its brilliance but readily extinguished by a trying day or a flicker of doubt. Discipline, conversely, is the unwavering flame, possessing the capacity to illuminate even the most shadowed passages and propel you forward with steadfast consistency. This reliance on ephemeral feelings renders us susceptible. When fatigue descends, stress mounts, or ennui takes hold, our motivation plummets, and our aspirations recede into the realm of distant dreams. We find ourselves perpetually pursuing a sensation that remains elusive precisely when we require it most. What if I were to reveal that the key to sustained advancement, to finally realizing those audacious objectives, resides not in a surge of fleeting emotion, but in a cultivated, unyielding inner fortitude? That strength is discipline. Discipline is the faculty to undertake what is necessary, precisely when it is necessary, irrespective of inclination. It is the silent covenant with your future self, the deliberate election to act in accordance with your deeply held values and aspirations, even when the path is fraught with difficulty. It is the unseen architect that distinguishes those who merely dream from those who truly achieve. The encouraging tidings are that discipline is not an innate endowment. It is a muscle that can be trained, a skill that can be honed, and a habit that can be meticulously constructed. You have likely experimented with a panoply of strategies, rigid schedules, punitive routines, or motivational maxims emblazoned across your surroundings. Yet, the struggle persists. This book unveils the Lotus Method, a 4-step framework meticulously engineered to systematically cultivate and sustain your discipline, transforming it from a fragile aspiration into an unshakable bedrock for your triumphs. Much like the lotus flower, which ascends from the murky depths to unfurl in pristine splendor, this method imparts the wisdom to navigate life's inevitable trials and diversions, emerging with enhanced resilience and sharpened focus. Through the Lotus Method, you will acquire the means to forge a robust mental foundation, fortify your self-control, master profound concentration, and ultimately, architect a life characterized by consistent action and remarkable accomplishment. In the ensuing chapters, we shall meticulously dissect each of the 4 phases of the Lotus Method: the root, the stem, the bloom, and the thrive. Each stage proffers practical instruments and actionable stratagems designed to reconfigure your cognitive architecture for enduring discipline. By the conclusion of this volume, you will not merely comprehend discipline, you will possess the indispensable tools to embody it. Therefore, are you prepared to relinquish wishing and embrace doing? Are you poised to cultivate your own unassailable discipline? Your transformative journey commences this very instant. Chapter 1. Understanding Discipline. 1. The Lotus Method explain. The notion of discipline is frequently invoked, yet its true meaning often eludes us. For many, it appears to be an arcane superpower possessed by a select few. We observe individuals who seem to accomplish tasks with effortless grace, maintain unwavering focus, and achieve their aspirations, prompting us to lament, if only I possess such discipline. However, a profound truth lies in the understanding that discipline is not an innate gift. It is a cultivated skill, akin to mastering the art of cycling or the nuances of a musical instrument. And like any learned proficiency, it can be acquired, honed through practice, and progressively enhanced. Consider the ephemeral nature of motivation. Motivation is that exhilarating surge of enthusiasm that propels us when we are deeply invested in a pursuit. It ignites a desire to leap from slumber and confront our responsibilities with vigor. Yet, motivation is akin to a flickering candle, susceptible to being extinguished by the slightest gust of wind. One day, we are imbued with boundless energy, poised to conquer the world. The next, we find ourselves drained, uninspired, and the once pressing task transforms into an insurmountable challenge. To depend solely on motivation is to construct a dwelling upon shifting sands. It may appear sturdy for a time, but it will inevitably succumb to the ravages of adversity. It is in this precarious landscape that discipline reveals its true strength. Discipline is the quiet fortitude that empowers us to undertake what is necessary, even when the inclination is absent. It is the steadfast hand that propels us forward, step by measured step, toward our objectives, irrespective of external circumstances. This is not to suggest an absence of imperfection or doubt. Rather, it is the commitment to engage and perform the work with unwavering consistency, even when the path is arduous. This volume is dedicated to a methodology meticulously crafted to foster this indispensable skill, the Lotus Method. The appellation Lotus Method draws inspiration from the exquisite lotus flower. This remarkable bloom, often depicted in imagery, emerges from the murky depths of muddy waters. Paradoxically, from this seemingly inhospitable environment, it ascends, unfurls its petals, and blossoms into an emblem of profound purity and breathtaking beauty. The lotus flower serves as a potent metaphor for our journey, illustrating our capacity for growth and the attainment of significant achievements, even amidst life's tribulations. Our own lives can, at times, resemble that turbid water, a confluence of distractions, formidable challenges, and moments when the impetus to fulfill our obligations wanes. The Lotus Method stands as your compass, guiding you to transcend these obstacles and blossom into the disciplined individual you aspire to be. This methodology transcends a mere compilation of disparate suggestions. It is a structured, four-stage expedition. Each phase meticulously builds upon the preceding one, forging a robust foundation for enduring discipline. Envision the process of planting a seed and nurturing its growth. One cannot simply conjure a flower into existence. The soil must be prepared, the seed sown, water provided, and sunlight offered. The Lotus Method operates on a similar principle, guiding you through each essential phase with deliberate intent. The inaugural stage is designated as the root. This is where the essential groundwork is laid. Before we can cultivate robust discipline, we must ascertain the underlying purpose driving our endeavors. What is our ultimate aim? What are our genuine aspirations? The root stage facilitates this vital clarification. It also encompasses the critical aspect of environmental control. A cluttered workspace, rife with distractions, presents a formidable impediment to concentration. The root stage equips you with the strategies to render your surroundings conducive to your objectives, rather than antagonistic. Crucially, it emphasizes the principle of commencing with incremental steps. Attempting to overhaul every facet of your life simultaneously can prove overwhelming. The root stage elucidates how to initiate with minuscule, manageable actions that engender momentum. This stage is about establishing a steadfast base, a powerful foundation, much like the roots of a plant anchoring it firmly within the earth. Once this solid foundation is established, we advance to the stem. The stem is dedicated to the cultivation of self-control. This is where you acquire the ability to manage impulses and resist the allure of temptation. Have you ever found yourself aimlessly scrolling through your mobile device when you should be engaged in your work? The STEM stage offers practical stratagems to circumvent such diversions. We will explore techniques such as the 5-second rule, a deceptively simple yet remarkably potent method for initiating action before the mind can devise reasons for procrastination. Furthermore, we will examine the concept of delayed gratification. Rather than seeking immediate rewards, the STEM stage fosters the patience required to persevere for more substantial, meaningful recompense in the future. This mirrors the stem of the lotus, growing robust and resilient, bridging the roots to the exquisite bloom above. Following the consolidation of strength, we transition to the bloom. This stage is devoted to the development of profound focus. In the contemporary milieu, distractions abound. Notifications ping incessantly, emails arrive in a ceaseless stream, and our thoughts invariably meander. The bloom stage imparts the skills to cut through this cacophony and concentrate on that which truly holds import. We will delve into powerful techniques such as time blocking, a method that involves allocating specific periods for distinct tasks. This transcends mere scheduling. It entails the creation of protected intervals wherein you can immerse yourself in your work without interruption. By mastering the bloom stage, you learn to harness your attention, enabling your efforts to blossom with efficacy. Finally, we arrive at the thrive stage. This phase is concerned with the enduring sustainability of your discipline. The acquisition of discipline is one achievement. Its sustained application over time is another. The thrive stage is centered on the principle of longevity. It involves diligent observation of your progress, the acknowledgement of your triumphs, and the capacity to learn from setbacks without succumbing to discouragement. It is also about cultivating self-belief. As you witness yourself consistently taking action, you begin to internalize the identity of a disciplined individual. This transformation in self-perception is profoundly impactful. The thrive stage ensures that your discipline does not merely manifest transiently. It flourishes and expands, empowering you to truly thrive in every dimension of your existence. What specific, tangible challenges does the Lotus Method address for individuals grappling with discipline, and how does it differentiate itself from generic exhortations to just do it? The efficacy of simplistic directives such as just do it often falters because they fail to confront the underlying reasons for our inaction. They disregard the significant influence of our emotions, our surroundings, and our ingrained habits. The Lotus Method, conversely, confronts these issues with directness and precision. For those who perpetually procrastinate, the Lotus Method provides an unambiguous roadmap. Instead of succumbing to guilt over delayed commencement, the root stage assists in identifying the reasons behind the avoidance. Perhaps that task appears too daunting, or its purpose remains unclear. Subsequently, it offers concrete steps to deconstruct the task and render it less intimidating. For individuals prone to distraction, the bloom stage furnishes practical instruments like time blocking and distraction management, rather than merely advising them to concentrate more intensely. For those who initiate with fervor, but rapidly lose momentum, the thrive stage supplies the strategies to sustain progress and cultivate enduring habits. The Lotus Method transcends reliance on sheer willpower. It is about constructing a supportive framework that amplifies your efforts, transforming discipline from a struggle into an intrinsic mode of operation. The distinction is akin to instructing someone to run a marathon without prior training versus providing them with a meticulously designed, step-by-step training regimen. You may be contemplating the synergistic interplay of these four stages: root, stem, bloom, and thrive. This is not a mere sequential checklist to be completed once. The inherent elegance of the Lotus Method lies in the interconnectedness of these stages, which can even operate cyclically, reinforcing one another to foster lasting discipline. Imagine embarking on a significant project. You might commence by clarifying your purpose route, then cultivate the self-control to resist the temptation of social media during work hours. Stem. As you immerse yourself in the task, you employ time blocking to achieve deep concentration. Bloom. However, you encounter an arduous segment, and your motivation wanes. Rather than abandoning the effort, you might revisit your purpose route to reaffirm its significance, or utilize a STEM technique to navigate the discomfort. You meticulously track your progress, thrive, and observe the distance you have traversed, which in turn inspires you to persevere. This interconnectedness imbues your discipline with enhanced resilience. Should one aspect prove deficient, another can be fortified. For instance, if you are experiencing difficulties with focus, bloom you might realize the necessity of better controlling your environment, root, or strengthening your capacity for delayed gratification stem. As you successfully navigate these stages, your confidence in your ability to be disciplined grows thrive, thereby making it more manageable to confront future challenges. The Lotus Method is not solely about achieving an objective. It is about cultivating an internal, robust system that empowers you to consistently progress toward your aspirations, irrespective of life's vicissitudes. It represents a holistic approach, acknowledging that discipline is forged through a confluence of clear purpose, effective self-management, focused attention, and sustained endeavor. The paramount takeaway is that the Lotus Method is a skill that can be acquired. Each stage embodies a set of practical actions and shifts in perspective that are amenable to practice. It is not about unearthing some elusive inner reservoir of willpower. It is about comprehending the mechanics of discipline and applying them with unwavering consistency. We shall meticulously dissect each step, providing lucid instructions and illustrative examples, enabling you to commence the cultivation of your discipline one petal at a time. Having now grasped the underlying philosophy and the 4 foundational stages of the Lotus Method, we are poised to embark upon the crucial initial step, the establishment of the root. This is where we meticulously lay the groundwork for enduring discipline, ensuring that our efforts are firmly anchored in purpose and resilience, thereby preparing us to fortify our resolve in the subsequent stages. 2. Discipline vs. motivation. We often speak of finding motivation, a phrase that conjures images of a sudden, incandescent spark igniting a fervent blaze, promising the power to achieve anything. Witnessing another's triumph can unleash a potent surge. I must accomplish that. This visceral impetus, this urge to commence, is what we label motivation, a fleeting effervescence that emboldens us to act. Consider the aspiring guitarist. The sight of a virtuoso commanding the stage might ignite a fervent desire. I yearn to wield such mastery. This potent feeling is motivation, compelling one to grasp an instrument, perhaps even to acquire one. Hours may be spent in practice, bathed in the initial thrill. It is a magnificent sensation, a powerful, ephemeral spark. Yet, the nature of motivation reveals itself as akin to a firework. Brilliant, exhilarating, and often boisterous, its brilliance is transient. Fireworks erupt, dazzle momentarily, and then vanish, leaving only wisps of smoke and fading light. Motivation mirrors this ephemeral quality, waxing and waning. It is susceptible to our moods, external circumstances, and even the most trivial of daily occurrences. One morning may find you energized for the gym, while the next renders the mere thought an insurmountable burden. This is the crucible where aspirations often remain unrealized. They commence with a flourish of enthusiasm, perhaps even yielding brief, commendable progress. But then, the motivating current recedes. The initial ardor cools. The guitar languishes unplayed. The gym membership lies dormant. Discouragement descends, tinged with a whisper of guilt. The inner monologue might lament, I lack the requisite discipline, or perhaps this endeavor is beyond my capacity. Herein lies the true challenge. To anchor our aspirations solely to motivation is to build upon shifting sands, awaiting a feeling that may never arrive, leading to an abrupt cessation of effort. The refrain, I don't feel like it today, becomes an unassailable justification for inaction. This precipitates a frustrating cycle of commencement and abandonment, a perpetual state of being on the precipice of success without ever truly reaching it, akin to a roller coaster of exhilarating highs and dispiriting lows, perpetually in transit, but never arriving. The tangible repercussions of constructing one's entire approach to goals upon the foundation of motivation are profound. Foremost, it cultivates inconsistency. When actions are tethered to emotional states, progress becomes as erratic as the tides. This renders the accumulation of genuine momentum an arduous, if not impossible, feat. Imagine constructing a dwelling by laboring only when the inclination strikes. Some days might see a flurry of bricklaying, while others, weeks, or even months, yield no progress. The edifice will never be erected. This inherent inconsistency breeds frustration and self-doubt. Initiating an endeavor with fervent hope, only to falter when the feeling wanes, can erode one's belief in their own capabilities. The question arises, why can I not persevere? This knowing uncertainty can diminish confidence, amplifying the difficulty of recommencing future pursuits. An all-or-nothing mentality can take root. The perception of imperfection, or even a single missed day, can be interpreted as complete failure, leading to outright abandonment. This is a common pitfall of motivation-centric approaches. But what if an alternative pathway existed? What if our goals could be attained not by awaiting the opportune feeling, but by drawing from a steadfast power source that functions even in the absence of inclination? This is the domain of discipline. Discipline is not an emotion, it is not a spark. It is more akin to a steady, unwavering engine. It is the capacity to execute necessary actions, irrespective of personal inclination. It is a deliberate choice, a skill that can be cultivated and strengthened, much like mastering a bicycle or acquiring a new language. Motivation may propel us to begin, but discipline ensures our continued progression. Revisit the guitarist. Their initial foray may have been fueled by motivation. However, to achieve true mastery, to perform intricate pieces with confidence, discipline becomes indispensable. It necessitates daily practice, even when fingers ache, fatigue sets in, or the instrument feels alien. The commitment, the underlying purpose, and the understanding that consistent action is the sole route to proficiency drive this practice. Discipline is akin to building muscular strength. Initial weightlifting is arduous, accompanied by soreness and exhaustion. Yet, with sustained effort, strength increases. Muscles adapt, and the process becomes less taxing. Discipline operates on a similar principle. Each conscious decision to act, even amidst difficulty, fortifies one's discipline, transforming it into a habit, a default mode of operation. The underlying rationale for this divergence is paramount. Motivation often fixates on the outcome, the elation of success, the adulation of others, the tangible reward. It is oriented towards the ultimate prize. Discipline, conversely, prioritizes the process. It is about consistent engagement, about performing the work, step by painstaking step, day after day, irrespective of one's immediate feelings about the eventual reward. Motivation may ignite the desire to start the race, but discipline is the unwavering force that carries one to the finish line, mile after arduous mile. Beyond the mere act of doing the work, what are the deeper benefits of a disciplined approach that motivation alone cannot confer? Discipline cultivates a profound sense of self-mastery. When one can reliably depend on themselves to follow through, even in the face of adversity, self-belief soars. This transcends the attainment of external objectives, fostering inner fortitude and resilience. It is a realization that one is not beholden to fleeting emotions, but rather is in command. Discipline also nurtures a deeper appreciation for the journey itself. Driven by motivation, one might be tempted to rush through processes, eager for the conclusion. Discipline, however, encourages presence, learning from each incremental step, and finding fulfillment in the effort itself. This fosters more meaningful growth and a more robust understanding of one's own capabilities, cultivating trust in one's commitment rather than ephemeral enthusiasm. Furthermore, discipline engenders reliability and trust, not only within oneself, but also in the eyes of others. Consistent fulfillment of commitments builds a reputation for dependability, an invaluable asset in both personal and professional spheres. It signifies an individual who is steadfast and follows through. Consider Sarah, who harbored a desire to author a book. Her initial inspiration was potent. A weekend was dedicated to outlining chapters, accompanied by an exhilarating rush of excitement. She eagerly shared her grand literary vision with friends. However, the daily reality of writing soon emerged. Some days, words flowed effortlessly, imbuing her with a sense of triumph. Other days, the page remained stubbornly blank, and a heavy sense of dread descended. Her motivation began to wane. She found herself succumbing to television, aimlessly scrolling through social media, rationalizing, "I will write tomorrow when inspiration strikes." This pattern persisted for months. The book remained an unfinished aspiration. Sarah's disappointment in herself deepened. She possessed the desire, the initial spark, but lacked the steady engine of discipline. She awaited inspiration as if it were a lightning strike, failing to grasp that writing, like any craft, demands consistent, deliberate practice. Now, envision Sarah approaching her goal with discipline. While motivation might have been the initial impetus, she would have established a concrete plan. I will dedicate 1 hour to writing each morning, without exception. On days of inspiration, she would write with fervor. On days devoid of it, she would still commit to that hour. Her focus would be on transcribing words onto the page, even if imperfect. She would understand that the act of writing itself, the consistent application of effort, is the true architect of the book. This is the formidable power of discipline. It is not about robotic adherence or the suppression of feelings. It is about making a conscious decision to act in alignment with one's objectives, even when emotions suggest otherwise. It is about constructing a bridge of consistent action that carries one over the valleys of diminished motivation. Motivation is a delightful sensation, a helpful nudge, the spark that initiates our journey. Discipline, however, is the enduring fuel that sustains the flame. It is the steady hand that guides us through darkness, the reliable path that leads us to our destination. It is the skill that transmutes dreams into tangible realities, not through caprice or fleeting sentiment, but through persistent, unwavering exertion. While comprehending the fundamental distinction between discipline and motivation is crucial, true potency lies in understanding how to cultivate and harness this essential faculty. The ensuing section will explore the foundational root of the Lotus Method, initiating the construction of a robust mental framework designed to foster enduring discipline, irrespective of one's emotional state. 3. Why discipline matters. We all harbor aspirations, do we not? Grand visions and modest hopes alike. Perhaps the yearning to master a new craft, to reclaim one's vitality, to launch an enterprise, or simply to exert greater command over the unfolding of our days. We envision ourselves attaining these objectives, and in that instant, a current of exhilaration courses through us. This sensation is motivation. It is a marvel, akin to a gentle zephyr that unfurls our sails. But what transpires when that zephyr subsides? What becomes of us when the heavens darken and the endeavor feels arduous? Motivation, by its very essence, is ephemeral. It is a sentiment, and sentiments are capricious. They possess the capacity for immense power, yet they are equally prone to unreliability. It is here that discipline emerges. Discipline is not a feeling. It is an act. It is the quiet, resolute impetus that propels us onward, even when the initial fervor has waned, even when our inclination lies elsewhere. Discipline is the faculty to execute what is necessary, irrespective of one's disposition. It is not an exercise in severity or self-recrimination. Rather, it is the conscious decision to act with unwavering consistency toward that which genuinely resonates with your being. Consider it thus. Motivation is the spark that ignites the flame, but discipline is the steadfast hand that replenishes the fuel sustaining its burn. Absent that unwavering hand, the fire will inevitably extinguish, leaving you exposed to the chill. So, why is this steadfast hand of discipline so profoundly essential? Why should we endeavor to cultivate it when life already presents a formidable array of obstacles? The answer is both elementary and far-reaching. Discipline serves as the conduit that transports us from our present circumstances to our desired destination. Our objectives, our dreams, our most profound longings, they remain mere wishes without the persistent action required to imbue them with reality. Discipline is the practical, quotidian instrument that transmutes our intentions into tangible achievements. It is the engine that drives progress, particularly when the initial surge of motivation has long since dissipated. Reflect upon the monumental accomplishments that punctuate history. Contemplate the scientists who dedicated years to their laboratories, the artists who devoted their lives to their respective arts, the athletes who subjected themselves to relentless training. Were they perpetually suffused with boundless enthusiasm? They were propelled by something more profound, something more enduring: discipline. They grasped that inspiration and passion, while invaluable, are insufficient. True, lasting success is forged upon the bedrock of disciplined exertion, day after day, long after the glamour has faded, and only the arduous labor remains. Yet, the significance of discipline extends far beyond the mere attainment of goals. It is, surprisingly, the very foundation of authentic freedom. This assertion may strike one as paradoxical. We often perceive discipline as an imposition, a set of constraints we are compelled to observe. However, the inverse holds true. By electing to embrace discipline, we liberate ourselves from the unseen shackles that impede our progress. We emancipate ourselves from the dominion of our fleeting impulses. We break free from the ceaseless cycle of procrastination that siphons our time and energy. We escape the pervasive distractions that fragment our attention in myriad directions. When you consciously choose to set aside a modest sum each week, even when the temptation to acquire something new is potent, you are actively constructing financial liberty. You are architecting possibilities for your future. When you elect to nourish your body and engage in physical activity, even when the allure of repose is strong, you are cultivating freedom from infirmity and the liberty to embrace a more vibrant existence. When you opt to direct your focus toward your work rather than succumbing to the siren call of social media, you are forging the freedom to be productive and to realize your intended outcomes. These disciplined choices undertaken today are the architects of expanded choices and diminished limitations tomorrow. It is a distinct form of freedom, a more profound and enduring liberation than the transient gratification derived from yielding to every passing whim. Furthermore, the very practice of discipline cultivates something of immeasurable value within us: self-mastery and resilience. Each time you render a disciplined decision, you are fortifying your self-control musculature. It is analogous to visiting the gymnasium. The more rigorous your workouts, the stronger your muscles become. The more you exercise discipline, the more robust your capacity to govern your actions and thoughts grows. This is not an endeavor of brute force. It is the cultivation of a quiet, inner strength. This burgeoning strength enhances your self-awareness. You begin to discern your own patterns, your inherent inclinations, and the means by which to guide them. And as you cultivate this internal dominion, you simultaneously foster resilience. Life is an unpredictable tapestry woven with unforeseen challenges and deviations. Matters do not invariably unfold as meticulously planned. When you possess a well-developed sense of discipline, you are better equipped to surmount these setbacks. You do not falter when adversity arises. Instead, you possess the inner fortitude to rise anew, to glean wisdom from the experience, and to persevere. You become more robust, more adept at navigating the inevitable tempests of existence. The deleterious repercussions of a deficit in discipline extend far beyond the mere failure to achieve our ambitions. A life devoid of discipline can feel chaotic and unmoored. We may find ourselves perpetually reacting to external stimuli rather than charting our own course. This can engender a profound sense of discontent, a gnawing feeling that we are falling short of our inherent capabilities. Envision a vessel adrift without a rudder, buffeted by every passing wave. Such is the sensation of a life unguided by discipline. We may forfeit significant opportunities due to a lack of preparedness or by allowing them to slip through our grasp. We may compromise our health by succumbing to deleterious habits. Our relationships may become strained due to an inability to commit to presence or reliability. The cumulative impact of a succession of minor, undisciplined choices can culminate in profound regrets. It is not solely about what we fail to accomplish, but also about the caliber of the life we do inhabit and the potential adverse effects on our well-being and our connections with others. This is precisely where the prevailing perception of discipline often becomes a stumbling block. Numerous individuals regard discipline as an onerous burden, a perpetual struggle against their own desires. They envision a life characterized by rigid regulations and an absence of enjoyment. This restrictive viewpoint renders the very initiation of discipline an arduous undertaking. It feels akin to a form of penance. But what if we could recalibrate that perspective? What if we could perceive discipline not as a constraint, but as an act of self-preservation and empowerment? When we reframe discipline, it transforms into an instrument of liberation. Instead of contemplating, I must do this, we can begin to consider, I choose to do this because it will facilitate the attainment of something I deeply cherish. This shift in cognition is paramount. It transmutes discipline from an external obligation into an internal covenant. It involves recognizing that the effort we invest today, the discipline choices we make, are investments in a future that is brighter, freer, and more fulfilling. The Lotus Method is predicated upon this very tenet, that discipline is not about coercion, but about intentional guidance along a clearly defined path. Ultimately, discipline is the catalyst that enables us to lead a life imbued with purpose. Absent it, we tend to drift. We become ensnared in the minutiae of daily existence, reacting to whatever arises, without a discernible sense of direction. Discipline empowers us to make deliberate choices that harmonize with our most deeply held values and our long-term vision. It permits us to actively shape our lives rather than passively allowing life to unfold around us. Consider what truly holds significance for you. Is it your health? Your family? Your personal evolution? Your contribution to the broader world? Whatever your core values may be, discipline is the force that empowers you to live in alignment with them. It is the consistent effort you dedicate to nurturing your relationships, to acquiring new knowledge, to safeguarding your physical and mental well-being. Without discipline, our values remain abstract concepts, admirable in theory but absent in practice. Discipline is what breathes life into those values, leading to an existence that feels authentically lived, a life where you are assuredly maximizing your time and your potential. It is about crafting a life that resonates with meaning, rather than one shadowed by the quiet ache of missed opportunities. Comprehending why discipline is so indispensable is the initial stride. It is akin to recognizing the necessity of constructing a robust foundation before erecting an elegant edifice. However, awareness of its importance is merely the prelude. The true potency resides in how we cultivate it. While the allure of motivation may wane, and the challenges of existence may appear insurmountable, there exists a structured, validated pathway to forge unwavering discipline. This path, the Lotus Method, commences with the establishment of a firm foundation, ensuring that the structure we erect will be both sturdy and enduring, irrespective of the prevailing conditions. 4. The trainable skill of discipline. It is a familiar sentiment, is it not? One observes another who navigates life with an apparent ease, their trajectory consistently true, and a thought arises, they are simply wired differently. They must possess an innate gift for discipline. We often perceive discipline as a bestowed favor, a quality one either possesses or lacks entirely. It is akin to some individuals being born with an unyielding will, while others simply are not. Yet, this very notion stands as one of the most formidable obstacles we encounter when aspiring to cultivate a more disciplined existence. It is akin to informing a gardener that they are incapable of nurturing a resplendent bloom because they were not born with a verdant thumb. But what if the truth were that discipline is not an inherent endowment, but rather a skill that can be acquired and honed, much like learning to cycle or mastering a musical instrument? What if it were more akin to a muscle within your own physique? Consider this. When you first attempt to lift a substantial weight, your muscles may protest with an ache, your capacity to lift it perhaps limited or even non-existent. It is arduous. However, with persistent effort, a modest increment each day, a transformation begins to manifest. Your muscles gain strength. You can lift more. You can extend your reach. Your discipline operates in a remarkably parallel fashion. Each instance you elect to perform that which is required, even in the absence of inclination, you are executing a rep for your discipline's musculature. You are fortifying it, however incrementally. This is not merely a comforting hypothesis. It is substantiated by the intricate workings of our cognitive architecture. Scientists have illuminated a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. While the term itself may seem imposing, its essence is that our brains retain the capacity for alteration and the formation of novel neural connections throughout the entirety of our lives. Every time you engage in the practice of a challenging endeavor, every time you resist a tempting diversion, every time You adhere to a plan despite its inherent difficulty. You are, in a very literal sense, reconfiguring your brain. You are forging new neural pathways that will subsequently facilitate the repetition of that same action. It is analogous to carving a passage through an untamed forest. The inaugural traversal demands prodigious exertion. You must contend with encroaching foliage and navigate treacherous routes. Yet, the more frequently you traverse this path, the more defined it becomes. Its passage grows progressively less arduous. Your brain mirrors this process with discipline. The more assiduously you exercise self-restraint and commit to consistent action, the more ingrained and automatic these behaviors become. What initially felt like a monumental undertaking gradually begins to feel more natural. This is precisely why the assertion that certain individuals are naturally disciplined is largely a fabrication. What we perceive as innate talent is, in most instances, the culmination of years of dedicated practice, often initiated in their formative stages. They may have established these habits without even consciously recognizing the process. They learned to persevere when confronted with adversity, they learned to decline the allure of distractions, and they learned to maintain their momentum. They did not possess a magical switch, they simply continued to exercise their discipline's musculature. And the encouraging news for you is that you can commence this exercise immediately, irrespective of your current standing. The true adversary in the construction of discipline is not a deficit of willpower, but rather a fundamental misunderstanding of its operational mechanics. When we subscribe to the belief that discipline is an intrinsic attribute, either present or absent, we invariably fall prey to what is termed a fixed mindset. Should we attempt an undertaking and find it arduous, culminating in failure, our fixed mindset pronounces, "See, I told you I lacked discipline. This is simply my nature." Such a pronouncement can be profoundly demoralizing. It engenders a desire to capitulate, for in our internal narrative, there is no merit in striving if one is devoid of the requisite gift. We may even actively shun challenges, out of a fear of confirming our perceived inadequacies. However, an alternative perspective exists, the growth mindset. When you embrace a growth mindset, you regard challenges not as indicators of your limitations, but as invaluable opportunities for learning and advancement. If you attempt something and it proves difficult, you do not conclude, "I am inept at this." Instead, you reason, "This is challenging. But what insights can I glean from this experience? How might I approach it differently in the future?" You perceive setbacks not as definitive failures, but as transient impediments along the path. This cognitive orientation is paramount to the cultivation of discipline. It empowers you to persist in practice, to continue attempting, and to foster growth, even when circumstances do not unfold flawlessly. Allow me to recount a narrative concerning my acquaintance, Alex. Alex harbored a persistent aspiration to master the guitar. He would acquire instruments, immerse himself in instructional videos, and even attend a few preliminary lessons. Yet, after a mere handful of weeks, the guitar would invariably find its way to a dusty corner. He would consistently lament, "I simply lack the discipline for it. My fingers are uncooperative and I succumb to boredom with alarming ease." He held a conviction that he was inherently unmusical and that discipline was beyond his grasp. One day, Alex resolved to adopt a novel approach. Rather than aiming for the flawless execution of an entire piece, he elected to concentrate on a single, diminutive objective each day. For the inaugural week, his sole aim was to pick up the guitar and strum 3 rudimentary chords for no more than 5 minutes. That was the entirety of his commitment. On certain days, the inclination to do so was notably absent. His fingers felt awkward, and the resulting sounds were somewhat rudimentary. Yet, he held fast to his objective. A mere 5 minutes, a mere 3 chords. He did not permit the sensation of inadequacy to impede him. He simply executed the small, prescribed action. Following that initial week, he perceived a subtle recalibration. It was not a seismic, dramatic shift, but he observed that the act of picking up the guitar felt marginally less like an obligation. The subsequent week, his objective was to dedicate 10 minutes to practicing those chords and perhaps to transition between them, with a modicum of increased fluidity. He still encountered days marked by a lack of motivation, but he consistently reminded himself that the endeavor was about establishing a habit, not about achieving instant virtuosity. He was, in essence, training his discipline's musculature. Gradually, over the span of several months, Alex continued this iterative process. He established modest, attainable objectives. He learned to accept that some days would present greater challenges than others. He learned to direct his focus towards the act of practice itself, rather than solely on the outcome of achieving a perfect rendition. And, remarkably, today, Alex is proficient in playing a multitude of songs. He continues to practice with regularity, and he still experiences days when his enthusiasm wanes, but he no longer allows these moments to derail his progress. He discovered that discipline was not an inherent deficiency, but rather a quality that could be cultivated, one minuscule, consistent action at a time. His fixed mindset had undergone a gradual metamorphosis into a growth mindset by virtue of his treating discipline as a skill to be actively trained. This underscores the profound impact of perceiving discipline as a trainable skill. It alleviates the pressure to attain perfection and, instead, channels your attention towards the process of incremental improvement. It conveys that every modest step you undertake constitutes progress. It is predicated on consistency, not on sheer intensity. It is about making an appearance even when the inclination is absent and engaging in the required labor. This forms the bedrock of the Lotus Method. We do not implore you to undergo a miraculous personal transformation. Instead, we elucidate the means by which to exercise your discipline's musculature, to construct those novel neural pathways within your brain, and to adopt a mindset that embraces both growth and the acquisition of knowledge. The journey may appear protracted, and there will inevitably be moments when you feel as though you are not progressing. This is entirely within the realm of normalcy. Recall Alex and his guitar. He did not attain musicianship overnight. He meticulously honed his skill, step by incremental step. The same principle applies to discipline. It is about comprehending that with every attempt, every minor triumph, every instance you choose to perform that which is necessary, you are augmenting your strength. You are progressively becoming more disciplined. The recognition that discipline is a skill we can actively nurture represents the initial, indispensable phase. But how does one embark upon this process of cultivation without succumbing to a sense of being overwhelmed? The subsequent section will delve into the foundational root of the Lotus Method, illustrating how to construct the essential mental and environmental framework that renders consistent action not merely feasible, but inevitable. Chapter 2. Applying the Lotus Method. 1. Root. Building a strong foundation. When we speak of forging discipline, the immediate inclination is to envision arduous endeavors akin to scaling a formidable mountain. Yet, before the ascent even commences, it is imperative to ensure the ground beneath us is unshakably firm. This is the province of the initial phase of the Lotus Method, the cultivation of a robust foundation, the root. Consider the exquisite lotus flower. Its genesis lies in the mire, yet its emergence is no mere happenstance. It is anchored by potent roots that secure its position, drawing sustenance to unfurl in majestic bloom. Our discipline mirrors this. It demands a formidable root system for resilience and flourishing, particularly when challenges arise. Consequently, we cannot afford to be beholden solely to the fleeting currents of motivation. Motivation, much like a capricious butterfly, flits and vanishes. Discipline, conversely, is the steadfast tree, enduring through every season. And to cultivate this enduring tree, we must first attend to its roots. The primacy of purpose. Clarifying your why. The most vital root to plant is our why. Why do you aspire to greater discipline? What is the ultimate objective you seek to attain? Without a clear, compelling reason, the inevitable adversities will likely compel you to abandon your pursuit. It is akin to constructing a dwelling without a blueprint. Walls may rise, but without a guiding vision, it will never become a home. Your why is the profound, intrinsic impetus that propels you forward. It transcends the superficial desire to shed a few pounds or complete a nascent project. It necessitates a deep comprehension of what that objective truly signifies for the tapestry of your life. Does it translate to enhanced vitality and the energy to engage with your children? Does it offer the profound satisfaction of bringing into being something that fills you with pride? Does it foster a sense of self-assurance and command over your own existence? When imbued with a potent why, it functions as an unerring compass. Even amidst disorientation or fatigue, your why illuminates the path forward, recalling the genesis of your endeavor. This is the true genesis of discipline, not an action, but a profound attunement to one's purpose. Let us consider Sarah. Sarah harbored a desire to pen a book. She possessed a profound love for narratives and a compelling concept. Initially, her enthusiasm was effervescent. She acquired notebooks, meticulously crafted lists, and shared her aspirations with her circle. However, as weeks unfolded, the act of writing grew arduous. She encountered the stark expanse of blank pages and the insidious whisper of self-doubt. Her initial ardor waned, and the allure of television supplanted her creative pursuits. One day, Sarah paused and delved into the heart of her why. It was not merely about the existence of a book. It was about disseminating a message of hope that resonated deeply within her. It was about affirming her own capacity to culminate something of significant magnitude. It was about bequeathing a legacy, a fragment of her essence to the world. As she intertwined her writing with these deeper sentiments, a transformation occurred. The next time the urge to desist arose, she recalled her why. She recognized that the struggle was an intrinsic component of the journey, and that the completion of the book would yield an enduring sense of accomplishment that no ephemeral entertainment could replicate. Her why became her most formidable root, providing unwavering stability. Therefore, dedicate time to introspection. What is your most profound why for cultivating discipline? Articulate it, vocalize it, internalize it. This clarity constitutes the initial and perhaps most indispensable root of your discipline. It is the wellspring of sustenance that will sustain you when your inclinations urge you to falter. Environmental control. Cultivating a discipline-friendly ecosystem. Once our why is firmly established, we must orchestrate our surroundings to be conducive to our aspirations. Our environment exerts a profound, often underestimated, influence on our choices. If your objective is to adopt a healthier diet, yet your pantry remains perpetually stocked with confectionery and processed snacks, you are actively impeding your progress. If your aim is to concentrate on your work, but your mobile device incessantly chimes with notifications, you are predisposing yourself to distraction. This entails the deliberate creation of a disciplined ecosystem. An ecosystem is a complex interrelationship of living organisms and their environment, functioning in concert. Our aim is to fashion a personal ecosystem that fosters discipline and streamlines the execution of our intended actions. Let us dissect this into a series of straightforward phases. Firstly, your physical domain. Survey your living or working space. Is it orderly? Does it present an environment that facilitates your desired activities? If your intention is to engage in physical activity, having your workout attire prepared the preceding evening can significantly ease the transition. If your aspiration is to read, a comfortable reading chair and adequate illumination enhance the inviting nature of the pursuit. Conversely, a disordered and cluttered space can induce feelings of overwhelm, making the initiation of any task a formidable undertaking. The tidying of your physical environment is analogous to clearing a pathway for your disciplined endeavors. Secondly, your digital realm. In the contemporary landscape, our smartphones and computers constitute a substantial portion of our environment. Consider the applications you utilize, the websites you frequent, and the notifications you receive. Are they serving as allies or adversaries? If you find yourself ensnared in an endless scroll through social media when your focus should be directed towards work, contemplate disabling notifications for those applications during your designated work hours. You might even consider their temporary removal or the implementation of time restrictions. The establishment of digital boundaries is akin to erecting barriers against encroaching distractions. Thirdly, your social milieu. The individuals with whom you associate can also exert an influence on your discipline. If your companions consistently encourage nocturnal revelries when you have committed to an early morning workout, This can present a considerable challenge. This does not necessitate the severance of relationships, but rather a judicious awareness of the influences that surround you. At times, it is beneficial to seek out individuals who share analogous objectives or who offer encouragement to your efforts. Articulating your goals to a supportive confidant can also foster a sense of accountability. Let us revisit Sarah, our burgeoning author. She recognized that her living room was a perpetual source of distraction. The television was invariably on, and her plush sofa proved too inviting for impromptu naps. Consequently, she resolved to establish a modest writing nook. She cleared a desk, adorned a corkboard with her nascent ideas, and ensured her laptop was the sole occupant of the surface. She also reached an accord with her partner to observe a quiet hour each evening, during which the television would remain off, allowing her to dedicate her focus to her writing. By reconfiguring her environment, she rendered writing a more natural inclination and less of an internecine battle against her surroundings. She was actively cultivating her discipline-friendly ecosystem. The objective is not to engineer an immaculate, sterile environment. It is to implement modest, judicious adjustments that facilitate the selection of the disciplined path. What minor alteration can you effect within your physical or digital sphere today to support your aspirations? The power of micro-habits. Laying the foundation with small wins. We often entertain the notion that the cultivation of discipline necessitates grand, heroic undertakings. However, the reality is that discipline is forged incrementally, one minuscule step at a time. This is the underlying principle of micro-habits. A micro-habit is an action of such diminutive scale that it can be executed with minimal effort. It is so inconsequential that it becomes exceedingly difficult to decline. What imbues microhabits with such potency? They circumvent our inherent resistance. When we attempt to enact substantial change instantaneously, our cognitive faculties often interject with pronouncements of insurmountable difficulty, time constraints, or a lack of inclination. But a microhabit? It functions as a gentle nudge, not an forceful shove. For instance, if your objective is to augment your reading habits, a microhabit could be the commitment to read one page of a book before retiring. That is the entirety of the commitment. A single page. It is virtually impossible to fail at the endeavor of reading one page. Yet, once that solitary page has been perused, you may discover yourself inclined to read another, and then yet another. The habit of reading begins to take root, not through coercion to read for an extended duration, but by rendering the initiation of the act remarkably facile. Another illustration. If your aspiration is to increase your physical activity, a microhabit could be perform 5 push-ups each morning. 5 push-ups require less than a minute. However, their daily execution instills the habit of exercise. Before long, you may find yourself executing 10, then 15, and perhaps even embarking on a run. The small triumph of completing those 5 push-ups generates momentum. The cornerstone of microhabits is consistency. The emphasis lies not on the magnitude of the action, but on its daily execution. This unwavering commitment, irrespective of its scale, commences the process of forging neural pathways within your brain associated with discipline. It educates your cognitive system that you are capable of fulfilling your commitments. Envision it as constructing with Lego bricks. One does not assemble a colossal castle with a single, enormous brick. It is constructed brick by painstaking brick. Each diminutive brick represents a microhabit. Over time, these infinitesimal bricks coalesce to form something extraordinary. Let us consider John, who harbored a desire to master the guitar. He acquired a resplendent instrument, yet it remained ensconced in its case for months. The prospect of practicing for an hour daily seemed overwhelmingly daunting. Subsequently, he resolved to experiment with a micro-habit. Touch my guitar for 60 seconds each day. That was the sole stipulation. Merely 60 seconds. On certain days, you would simply pick it up, strum a solitary chord, and then set it aside. However, on other days, after the initial contact, he would feel inspired to play for a few additional moments. With the passage of time, those 60 seconds became an integrated facet of his routine. He began to feel more at ease with the guitar, and the notion of practicing for extended periods no longer seemed so formidable. The micro-habit of touching the guitar served as the minuscule seed from which a genuine practice habit blossomed. Micro-habits are predicated on rendering the starting line remarkably accessible. They facilitate the development of discipline by providing repeated affirmations of your capacity to achieve your objectives. They are the modest, robust bricks that constitute the bedrock of your discipline. What infinitesimal, virtually effortless action can you commit to undertaking daily to commence the construction of your discipline? Mindset shift. Discipline as a skill, not a trait. One of the most significant impediments to cultivating discipline is the pervasive belief that it is an inherent characteristic, either bestowed at birth or entirely absent. Individuals frequently opine, "I am simply not a disciplined person," or "she possesses an innate discipline." This represents a prevalent fallacy, and it serves to impede the progress of countless individuals. The verity is that discipline is not a static attribute. It is a skill. And akin to any acquired skill, it can be learned, honed through practice, and progressively refined. Consider the process of learning to ride a bicycle. No one is born with an innate understanding of balance and propulsion. One falters, one perseveres, one adjusts, and ultimately, proficiency is attained. Discipline operates on precisely the same principle. The root phase of the Lotus Method is the crucible in which we commence the acquisition of this skill. It involves the realization that each instance of choosing to undertake what is necessary, even in the absence of inclination, serves to fortify your discipline muscle. Every minor triumph, every successfully executed microhabit, every moment of resisting temptation is tantamount to a repetition at the gymnasium. For your discipline, when you embrace this paradigm, that discipline is a skill, the entire landscape shifts. Rather than succumbing to discouragement when you falter, you perceive it as an opportune moment for learning. You pose the inquiry, what transpired? What alternative approach can I adopt on the subsequent occasion? You do not interpret it as a deficiency in your character, but as a chance to refine your methodology. This constitutes a pivotal element in the establishment of a robust foundation. If you harbor the conviction that discipline is something you inherently lack, you will be less inclined to endeavor its cultivation. However, if you believe it to be a skill amenable to development, you will be more disposed to invest the requisite effort. Contemplate the narrative of Maya. Maya had consistently grappled with procrastination. She would defer assignments until the 11th hour, enduring stress and self-recrimination. She held the conviction that she was inherently a procrastinator. However, upon encountering the Lotus Method, she began to reframe her procrastination not as a character flaw, but as a habit amenable to modification. She focused on the root stage, elucidating her why to secure gainful employment post-graduation, controlling her environment, establishing a dedicated study space removed from distractions, and practicing microhabits, reading a single paragraph from her textbook each morning. When she missed a day of reading, instead of thinking, 2. STEM. Developing consistent actions. The STEM phase of the Lotus Method is where your discipline truly begins to take root and flourish. Envision a lotus blossom. It originates from a humble seed nestled deep within the embrace of the mud. That seed requires a robust root system to anchor it firmly and imbue it with vitality. This is the essence of the root phase, the profound discovery of your purpose and the meticulous arrangement of your life to provide a fertile ground for discipline to emerge. Yet, a root alone does not conjure a flower. The root yearns for a stem to ascend, to reach towards the life-giving light. This stem is the conduit of the plant's journey, the very mechanism that permits its growth and the realization of its ultimate potential. Within the framework of the Lotus Method, the STEM phase is dedicated to the cultivation of this strong, unwavering stem. It is the art of learning to act upon what is necessary even when the inclination falters. This is the very heart of discipline, persistent action toward your aspirations, irrespective of external or internal conditions. Motivation, akin to a brilliant sunbeam, offers a fleeting warmth and an urge to engage. However, it can vanish with the swift arrival of clouds. Discipline, conversely, is the steadfast, resilient stem that perseveres in its growth even when the sun is obscured. It is the cultivation of an inner fortitude that sustains progress. day after day. The engine of consistency, executing what must be done. The STEM phase is the crucible in which this inner strength is forged. It involves cultivating the resilience to act, even when the endeavor feels arduous, monotonous, or when an alternative, more appealing pursuit beckons. Consider it akin to building a muscle. Its strength amplifies with each application. Every instance you elect to execute your planned course of action, particularly when faced with adversity, you are fortifying your discipline muscle. Imagine the aspiration to master the guitar. The understanding that daily practice is imperative is clear. On some days, enthusiasm propels you to practice for an entire hour, a commendable feat. Yet, there will be days when fatigue descends or the allure of television proves irresistible. If practice is contingent upon mood, proficiency will remain elusive. Discipline mandates that you pick up the guitar and engage in practice, even if only for a brief interval, on those challenging days. This unwavering commitment, this consistent effort, is the STEM's relentless growth. It marks the divergence between mere wishing and tangible, purposeful action. The 5-second rule, acting before doubt takes hold. Among the most potent instruments available in the STEM phase is the 5-second rule. Its simplicity belies its profound efficacy. The moment an intention to undertake a significant action arises, whether it be commencing a project, initiating a crucial conversation, or embarking on a restorative walk, a narrow window of approximately 5 seconds exists before your mind begins to construct justifications. It may whisper, "I am too weary," or "I shall attend to it later," or "its importance is negligible." The 5-second rule dictates, as soon as the impulse to act surfaces, initiate a countdown from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then execute. Abstain from contemplation, simply move. This brief countdown serves to disrupt the insidious cascade of negative thought patterns and propels you into action. Consider the scenario of sitting on a sofa, acutely aware of the need for a run. The thought arises, "I should go for a run." Subsequently, your mind interjects, "Ugh, it is chilly outside." Perhaps later. Before this rationalization can solidify its grip, commence the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and rise. Don your running attire. Open the door. You are already in motion, and the inertia to cease becomes significantly more challenging to overcome. You have effectively circumvented the part of your psyche predisposed to fabricating excuses. This is the methodology for cultivating the habit of decisive action, for transforming discipline into an instinctive response. This rule proves particularly invaluable for initiating tasks, as commencement often represents the most formidable hurdle. Once momentum is established, sustained engagement becomes more manageable. The 5-second rule acts as your personal impetus, your gentle nudge to overcome the initial wall of resistance. Delayed gratification, choosing your future self. Another cornerstone in the construction of a robust STEM lies in the cultivation of patience for rewards. This is the principle of delayed gratification. It involves prioritizing a future benefit over an immediate pleasure. This is an indispensable skill for discipline, as the majority of our aspirations are intrinsically linked to future achievements rather than instantaneous gratification. Reflect upon the act of saving money. The desire for a new smartphone may coexist with the inclination for social outings every weekend. If your disposable income is entirely allocated to immediate pleasures, the acquisition of the phone becomes an impossibility. Discipline necessitates the conscious decision to allocate a portion of your funds towards savings, even if it means foregoing some immediate enjoyment. You are deferring present pleasure to secure a more substantial and rewarding outcome at a later juncture. The new smartphone. This skill trains your mind to accept that desirable outcomes are often the product of patience and diligent effort. It instills patience and fortifies your ability to resist impulsive decisions that may offer transient satisfaction, but ultimately undermine your long-term objectives. By practicing delayed gratification, you are training yourself to exert control rather than succumbing to the dominion of your immediate desires. This represents a monumental stride in the development of authentic discipline. It is akin to educating your mind that the future holds significance, and that your present actions are the architects of that future. Small wins, big momentum. The STEM phases choose the pursuit of grand, transformative changes enacted instantaneously. Instead, it harnesses the potent force of small, consistent victories. Each time you successfully accomplish what you set out to do, however minuscule the step, you generate momentum. This is analogous to placing a single brick in a wall. Individually, each brick may appear insignificant, but over time, a formidable and stable structure emerges. Revisiting the guitar analogy, perhaps your initial practice sessions are limited to a mere 10 minutes daily. This is perfectly acceptable. 10 minutes of consistent practice each day far surpasses the aspiration of an hour that never materializes. These 10 minutes constitute small wins. They serve as tangible proof of your capability. They bolster your self-assurance. As you grow more comfortable, you may find yourself extending practice to 15 minutes, then 20. These incremental successes foster a positive sentiment, a sense of accomplishment, which in turn fuels your desire to continue. This compounding effect is profoundly powerful. It transcends the mere execution of a task. It cultivates an internal conviction. You begin to internalize, I am someone who adheres to my practice schedule, or I am someone who prioritizes my well-being. These consistent, albeit small, actions lay a robust foundation of self-belief which is indispensable for enduring discipline. Identifying and rectifying friction points. Even with the most noble intentions, obstacles can invariably arise. These are what we term friction points. They represent the moments or circumstances that most frequently impede our adherence to planned actions. The identification of these friction points is a pivotal element of the STEM phase. Once you comprehend what derails your progress, you can devise strategies to surmount these impediments. For instance, you might discover that upon returning home from work, an overwhelming sense of fatigue renders gym attendance unfeasible. This feeling of exhaustion upon arrival is a friction point. To overcome it, you could implement a proactive strategy. Perhaps you lay out your gym attire the preceding evening. Alternatively, you might opt to exercise before work, thereby circumventing the debilitating fatigue that often accompanies the end of the workday. Another friction point can manifest as distractions. If you are endeavoring to complete a project, yet your phone incessantly chimes with notifications, this constitutes a friction point. Your strategy here might involve disabling phone alerts or even relocating your phone to a different room during your work period. The objective within the STEM phase is to cultivate an acute awareness of these impediments. Resist the urge to merely succumb to frustration when they occur. Instead, engage in introspection. This is a friction point. What alternative approach can I adopt next time to ensure I can still accomplish my objectives? By proactively addressing these points, you significantly strengthen your discipline, rendering it less susceptible to collapse when faced with minor challenges. You are, in essence, smoothing the path to facilitate the unhindered growth of your STEM. Winning the inner battles. The STEM phase is where you acquire the acumen to prevail in the internal conflicts that obstruct your progress. These battles are universal. We all encounter resistance, self-doubt, and moments of profound exhaustion. The key is not to evade these sensations, but to learn how to act in spite of them. When you experience resistance to commencing a task, recall the 5-second rule. Count down and initiate action. When self-doubt begins to surface, reminding yourself of the prior successes you have already achieved can provide solace. You can affirm, I have navigated this before. I possess the capacity to do so again. When fatigue overwhelms you, inquire if you can dedicate even a portion of the task. Frequently, the mere act of starting is sufficient to surmount the sensation of depletion. These techniques do not advocate for the denial of difficult emotions. Rather, they are designed to cultivate a pragmatic methodology for sustained forward movement. They serve to fortify your inner resolve, ensuring that you are the orchestrator of your actions, not a pawn to fleeting emotions or uncertainties. Cultivating a deeper capacity for self-control. The methodologies employed in the STEM phase extend beyond the mere completion of specific tasks. They foster a more profound and resilient capacity for self-control that can be universally applied across all facets of your existence. When you practice delayed gratification in pursuit of your fitness objectives, you simultaneously enhance your ability to resist impulsive purchases. During shopping excursions, when you utilize the 5-second rule to initiate your work, you also become more adept at confronting challenging conversations. This phenomenon arises because discipline is a skill, and like any skill, it strengthens with diligent practice. Each instance you elect to act with consistency, you are effectively reconfiguring your neural pathways. You are imprinting upon yourself the understanding that you can exert dominion over your impulses and that you can remain steadfast to your commitments. This cultivates a sense of empowerment. You begin to perceive yourself as an individual possessing capability and control. This newfound self-control is not confined to a singular domain. It permeates, rendering you more disciplined in your interpersonal relationships, your financial management, your intellectual pursuits, and your overall well-being. By mastering the techniques of the STEM phase, by learning to act with decisiveness, to resist immediate temptations, and to generate momentum through sustained effort, you are not merely performing tasks, you are actively forging the unshakable core of your discipline. You are constructing the robust stem that will ultimately support the flourishing of your aspirations. Now, armed with this amplified capacity for action, we shall direct our attention towards nurturing the environment and mindset conducive to sustain focus, thereby transitioning to the bloom phase. 3. Bloom. Achieving your goals. The lotus flower, emerging from the murky depths to unfurl its petals in the sun, offers a profound metaphor for our own capacity to cultivate strength and beauty amidst adversity. We have journeyed through the foundational root stage, establishing a robust base, and the stem stage, fortifying our inner resolve. Now we arrive at the bloom stage, where the fruits of our labor begin to manifest in their full glory. This is the crucible of accomplishment, the arena where intentions are transformed into tangible achievements. The essence of the bloom stage lies in unwavering focus. It is the deliberate channeling of our full cognitive resources toward the tasks that propel us toward our aspirations. Envision a dedicated gardener tending a prize specimen. Their attention is not sporadic. It is a constant, vigilant presence, ensuring optimal sunlight, diligently warding off encroaching weeds, and providing every element necessary for robust growth. In this stage, you are the gardener, your goals the precious flora, and your focus the life-giving sunlight and protective shield. Deep focus, the engine of goal attainment. Why is such intense focus paramount? Because it is the very engine that propels achievement. When truly focused, we transcend mere task completion. We engage with a profound clarity of mind, imbuing our work with superior quality. This heightened state facilitates more effective problem-solving and fosters the generation of innovative ideas. Crucially, focus accelerates our progress, enabling us to accomplish more in less time, thereby bringing our goals from the realm of distant dreams into tangible proximity. Consider the endeavor of constructing an elaborate sandcastle. A mind constantly flitting between the lapping waves and passing figures will likely leave the project unfinished, or worse, result in a fragile edifice prone to collapse. Conversely, a focused individual, deeply immersed in the craft, meticulously shaping and building with care, will create a structure of enduring beauty and strength. This is the transformative power of deep focus on your goals. It bestows the precision and resilience necessary for them to stand tall and resolute. Discipline, as we have previously defined it, is the unwavering commitment to action, irrespective of transient emotional states. The bloom stage is where this definition finds its most potent expression. It is not about awaiting the capricious arrival of motivation, but about the consistent, daily act of presence, dedicating the requisite attention to our tasks, even when the mind backcaves toward diversions. This sustained, concentrated effort is the bedrock of genuine progress, akin to the steady nourishment that allows the lotus to ascend. Time blocking. Orchestrating your focus. How, then, do we cultivate this profound focus? One of the most potent instruments at our disposal is time blocking. This elegantly simple technique involves predetermining specific intervals for dedicated task engagement, meticulously inscribed within your schedule. It is akin to drawing inviolable boundaries on your calendar for particular activities. For instance, if your ambition is to author a book, rather than passively hoping for opportune moments, you would designate concrete writing periods, perhaps from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. During this hour, your sole occupation would be writing. All other demands, emails, social media, domestic chores would be deferred. Though seemingly stringent, this practice is remarkably liberating. When a designated time slot exists for a task, your cognitive energy is not dissipated in the perpetual calculus of when to engage. Instead, it is wholly available for the act of doing. This significantly mitigates decision fatigue, the mental exhaustion stemming from an overabundance of choices. When implementing time blocking, realism is paramount. Attempting to sustain 8 hours of intense concentration when your capacity is demonstrably 2 or 3 is counterproductive. Begin incrementally, perhaps with 30-minute blocks, gradually extending their duration as your proficiency grows. Furthermore, incorporate buffer periods. Life is inherently unpredictable. Tasks may extend, or transitions may require additional moments. These small allowances can prevent a single delay from jeopardizing your entire schedule. It is equally vital to become a staunch guardian of your allocated time blocks. This necessitates the judicious application of the word no to requests that encroach upon your focused work periods, or at the very least, the adept rescheduling of such demands. This is an act of profound self-respect, honoring your commitment to your objectives. Consider your time blocks as sacred sanctuaries for your most impactful endeavors. Proactive distraction management. Fortifying your focus. Time blocking establishes the fertile ground for focused work, but what of the encroaching weeds? Distractions are the insidious elements that can suffocate our concentration. In the bloom stage, a proactive approach to their management is imperative. This means actively preempting distractions before they can exert their influence. Distractions manifest in 2 primary categories: external and internal. External distractions are those originating from your immediate environment. These are often the most conspicuous. The incessant ping of notifications, the sudden appearance of emails, ambient conversations, or even a cluttered workspace. To mitigate these external intrusions, consider the following strategies. Silence notifications, a critical step. On your mobile devices, disable alerts for social media, news applications, and even email during your focus intervals. These can be addressed later. Curate browser tabs. On your computer, close any browser tabs not directly pertinent to your current task. Cultivate a tranquil workspace. Whenever feasible, seek out a quiet environment. If this is not possible, noise-canceling headphones can provide a sanctuary. Communicate your needs. Inform those with whom you share your living or working space when uninterrupted time is essential. A simple sign on your door can serve as an effective deterrent. Organize your workspace. A tidy desk often correlates with a clear mind. Eliminate clutter that might inadvertently draw your attention. Internal distractions are those that arise from within your own consciousness. These encompass thoughts, anxieties, impulses, or nascent ideas that vie for your attention. You might suddenly recall a forgotten errand, ruminate on a past interaction, or be seized by an idea for an entirely different project. Addressing internal distractions requires a more nuanced practice. The parking lot method. Maintain a notebook or digital note-taking application within reach. When an internal distraction surfaces, swiftly record it in your designated parking lot. This acknowledges the thought without allowing it to derail your focus. You can then revisit these notes at a more opportune moment, during a break or after your focus block. This communicates to your mind, "I have registered your concern and will address it later." Mindfulness. Simple breathing exercises can effectively reorient your attention to the present moment. When you notice your mind drifting, take several deep breaths and gently guide your focus back to your task. This is akin to the subtle but persistent steering of a vessel back onto its intended course. Acceptance. At times, simply accepting the transient nature of wandering thoughts can be beneficial. Refrain from self-recrimination. Acknowledge the distraction and then purposefully return to your work. The objective is not the eradication of thought, but the cultivation of the ability to re-engage your focus. The overarching principle here is proactive management. Do not passively await the arrival of distractions. Anticipate them. Identify your typical points of diversion and implement preventative measures. This vigilant safeguarding of your attention is the catalyst for the true flourishing of the bloom stage. The flow state, effortless productivity. When the synergy of effective time blocking and robust distraction management is achieved, a remarkable phenomenon can occur: the emergence. The flow state. This concept, articulated by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, describes a state of complete immersion in an activity. You experience a surge of energy, profound engagement, and a deep enjoyment of the process itself. Time appears to dissolve. The need to strategize future actions or self-evaluate diminishes. You are simply doing. Within the flow state, discipline feels almost effortless. This is not to say effort is absent. Rather, it is experienced as a natural, engaging force rather than a laborious struggle. Imagine a virtuoso musician performing a complex composition. Their focus is absolute, their movements precise, yet they are utterly absorbed in the unfolding beauty of the music. The bloom stage is intentionally structured to foster the attainment and sustainment of this flow state. By dedicating specific periods to focused work and systematically removing impediments, you create an environment conducive to profound mental engagement. This state is profoundly rewarding, yielding a deep sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that, in turn, fuels the momentum for continued disciplined practice. It initiates a virtuous cycle, strengthening your capacity for sustained effort, bridging the gap to tangible results, witnessing your goals materialize. The ultimate objective of the bloom stage is to forge a direct connection between your focused exertions and the concrete realization of your goals. It is about witnessing the tangible translation of your diligent efforts into measurable progress. Consider an individual striving to accumulate savings. Their objective is to save $1,000 within 3 months. In the root stage, they understood the why behind their savings goal. In the stem stage, they developed the capacity to resist impulsive expenditures. Now, in the bloom stage, they allocate specific time each week to meticulously review their budget, track their spending patterns, and systematically transfer funds into their savings account. Through the consistent application of these focused time blocks, they are actively advancing toward their objective. Each transfer represents a small, tangible step forward. Over weeks and months, these incremental advances coalesce. The initial $1,000 goal, which may have seemed formidable, becomes attainable through the focused, disciplined actions undertaken during the bloom stage. This principle holds true for any aspiration. Whether it is the acquisition of a new skill, the enhancement of physical well-being, or the completion of a professional project, consistent, focused effort is the indispensable ingredient. The bloom stage provides the structural framework and the practical methodology to ensure that this effort is consistently applied. It transforms abstract intentions into concrete actions that yield desired outcomes. It is the stage where the seed sown in root and nurtured in stem begin to unfurl into visible achievements. Therefore, how do we realistically integrate these bloom principles into our lives, particularly amidst the demands of a busy existence? It begins with the understanding that bloom is not about augmenting your workload, but about executing your existing responsibilities with superior efficacy. 1. Initiate with a singular focus. Avoid the temptation to overhaul your entire life instantaneously. Select one paramount goal and apply time blocking and distraction management to it initially. Observe its impact. 2. Embrace flexibility, not rigidity. While time blocking signifies commitment, it does not preclude adaptation. Should an unforeseen exigency arise, or if you experience a day of profound fatigue, it is permissible to adjust a scheduled block. The crucial element is to reschedule it promptly. 3. Prioritize quality over quantity. A 30-minute interval of concentrated, deep work can yield more significant results than 2 hours of distracted, desultory effort. Strive for focused quality. 4. Acknowledge incremental victories. Upon successfully completing a focus block or achieving a milestone toward your goal, take a moment to recognize it. This positive reinforcement cultivates momentum. By mastering the art of deep focus and adeptly managing distractions through the bloom stage, you have established a robust foundation for sustained progress. You have learned to harness your attention, convert it into potent action, and witness your goals begin to take tangible form. This represents a significant accomplishment. However, enduring success necessitates more than mere focused execution. It requires that these disciplined practices become an intrinsic aspect of your identity. The subsequent stage, Thrive, will explore the methods for solidifying your discipline, aligning it with your core self, and ensuring that your achievements are not ephemeral, but serve as the bedrock for continuous growth and profound, lasting fulfillment. 4. Thrive. Sustaining discipline. The journey of forging discipline, much like a lotus unfurling toward the sun, does not conclude with the first taste of victory. It is a perpetual unfolding, a becoming. We have delved into the bedrock of your purpose, fortified the sinew of your self-command, and guided you to blossom with unwavering attention. Now we ascend to the echelon of Thrive. This is the crucible where discipline transmutes from an act you perform into an essence you embody. It is the vital art of ensuring your hard-won discipline does not wither, but rather becomes an intrinsic, resplendent facet of your existence, enabling you to flourish and ascend, even amidst life's tempests. It is facile to surmise that the labor ceases once a milestone is reached or a virtuous habit is established. One might feel as though the summit has been attained. Yet, a gentle truth emerges. Discipline is not a static destination, but the very path you tread, day by relentless day. The Thrive stage is the profound realization of this. It is the dawning awareness that the true alchemy resides not solely in the initial exertion, but in the unwavering, continuous practice. Consider it akin to the meticulous tending of a garden. You sow the seeds, you quench their thirst, and you witness their nascent growth. But your vigil does not end there. You persist in watering, you diligently extirpate the encroaching weeds, and you shield the tender shoots from the ravages of storms. This ceaseless devotion is the very wellspring from which the garden draws its enduring vitality, year after year. In like manner, sustaining your discipline necessitates the ongoing cultivation of the habits and mindsets you have painstakingly forged, even when the initial ardor has waned. It is the architecting of a life where the execution of what is needful, irrespective of inclination, becomes as innate as the rhythm of your own breath. This is not a quest for flawlessness, but an unwavering commitment to persistence. It is the equipping of yourself with the tools and the fortitude to persevere, to adapt, and to emerge stronger with every crucible. When we speak of progress, our gaze often fixates on the mere tabulation of achievements or the attainment of numerical targets. In the bloom stage, our focus was on the deep, resonant work. Now, in Thrive, we broaden our panorama of progress. It transcends the mere completion of tasks. It encompasses the keen observation of your own metamorphosis. Are you refining your skills? Do you sense an ascendant confidence? Are you navigating the turbulent currents of difficult emotions with greater equipoise? These are the luminous markers of progress, as vital as any external triumph. Envision an aspirant striving to master the guitar. They might meticulously record their weekly practice hours. This is commendable. Yet, in the Thrive stage, they also perceive the burgeoning suppleness of their fingers, the nascent ability to render a melody without the crutch of notation, and the profound joy that ignites when they embrace their instrument. This deeper apprehension of progress serves as a potent sustainer of motivation, not the ephemeral spark, but a steadfast, internal luminescence. The celebration of these victories, however modest, is an integral component of thriving. Did you successfully sidestep a tempting diversion today? That is a victory. Did you rise from your slumber and embrace the day, despite the languor that clung to you? That too is a victory. These small triumphs coalesce, forging a formidable sense of accomplishment and reinforcing the profound conviction that you are capable of adhering to your aspirations. And when the currents of fortune shift, when plans falter, the Thrive stage imbues us with the wisdom to perceive setbacks not as failures, but is fertile ground for learning. It is the art of inquiring, what wisdom can I glean from this? Rather than succumbing to the lament, why am I so inept? This subtle yet seismic shift in perspective is indispensable for enduring success. The most potent stratagem for perpetuating discipline lies in its seamless integration into the very core of your being. This is the metamorphosis from the thought, I must be disciplined to accomplish this, to the conviction, I am a disciplined individual, and this is the natural comportment of such a person. This transformation of identity is nothing short of profound. When discipline becomes an intrinsic element of your self-perception, it ceases to feel like a burdensome obligation. It blossoms into an authentic expression of your inherent nature. Consider an individual who perceives themselves as inherently healthy. They do not awaken to ponder, should I engage in physical activity today? They simply do, for this is the way of healthy individuals. They partake of nourishing sustenance because this aligns with their self-image. Their actions resonate harmoniously with their identity. The Lotus Method orchestrates this evolution with deliberate precision. Each instance you elect the more arduous, yet ultimately more beneficial, course, you are reinforcing the intrinsic understanding that you are a person capable of confronting challenges. You are furnishing your own mind with irrefutable evidence of your competence and your unwavering commitment. Over time, these consistent actions solidify into habits, and these habits sculpt your identity. You begin to see yourself as one who fulfills their promises, one upon whom others can depend, one who can manifest their intentions. This is not an assertion of hubris, but a quiet, unshakable confidence born from the certainty of self-reliance. It is the cultivation of a person who instinctively gravitates toward choices that propel them toward their objectives, unburdened by perpetual struggle. This is the very essence of thriving. Discipline transmutes from an arduous endeavor into a way of life. Life, as we intimately understand, rarely unfolds as a placid, unswerving trajectory. There will be days when motivation recedes into a distant echo, when ensconced habits attempt to reassert their dominion, or when unforeseen adversities derail your progress. These junctures are not indictments of failure. They are simply intrinsic to the human tapestry. The Thrive stage is the cultivation of resilience, the mastery of navigating these terrestrial undulations without abandoning your pilgrimage. When confronted with a setback, the initial imperative is to extend yourself grace. Eschew the corrosive tendrils of self-recrimination, which only exacerbate the predicament, and instead, embrace self-compassion. Acknowledge the inherent difficulty and concede that struggle is an acceptable human experience. Then, with gentle resolve, reacquaint yourself with the Lotus Method. If a day of your morning ritual has been missed, resist the urge to declare, that is it, I have irrevocably ruined everything. Instead, contemplate, very well, today was an anomaly. What can I implement to realign my course tomorrow? Perhaps your route requires refinement to imbue your purpose with greater clarity, or a novel STEM stratagem is needed to bolster your self-control, or more robust boundaries must be erected within your bloom stage. At times, a plateau is merely a natural interlude preceding the next phase of growth. It is a period for consolidating acquired wisdom and preparing for the unfolding future. The paramount objective is to prevent these moments of tribulation from defining your narrative. They are opportunities to exercise your discipline, to emerge more robust and adaptable. It is akin to a muscle. It strengthens through exertion, not through perpetual repose. By mastering the art of resurgence, you are truly thriving. As you consistently apply the Lotus Method and weave discipline into the very fabric of your existence, a wondrous phenomenon will commence to manifest. Its salutary effects will permeate every dimension of your being. This transcends the mere attainment of specific objectives. It signifies a fundamental recalibration of your lived experience. When you possess the unwavering assurance that you can depend on yourself to execute what is required, your confidence naturally escalates. You begin to place greater trust in your own discernment, which in turn precipitates more astute decision-making across the spectrum of your life. You may find yourself less susceptible to the allure of impulsive choices and more adept at discerning what genuinely holds significance. This sense of agency of being the sovereign navigator of your own vessel, is profoundly empowering. It attenuates stress and anxiety, as you are no longer engaged in an internal skirmish or overwhelmed by external pressures. Instead, you experience a steady current of tranquility and competence. Furthermore, sustained discipline frequently engenders a more profound sense of purpose and fulfillment. When you are assiduously engaged in endeavors that resonate with meaning and you witness your own progression, life assumes a richer, more gratifying hue. You are not merely traversing a prescribed course, you are actively architecting the life you aspire to inhabit. This cascading influence is the authentic splendor of thriving. It is the quiet contentment derived from the knowledge that you have cultivated an inner bastion of strength and permanence, a sanctuary that empowers you to confront the world with courage, lucidity, and an abiding sense of well-being. Let us contemplate the proactive measures by which you can fortify your discipline against the vicissitudes of the future. Anticipate the potential challenges that may lie ahead. Perhaps you are cognizant that during the festive season, your established dietary regimens tend to falter. Or perhaps you foresee a period of intense professional engagement that may curtail the time available for your creative pursuits. The Thrive stage mandates a forward-looking perspective, the implementation of strategies prior to the advent of these exigencies. For the holiday scenario, you might preordain the allowance of a single indulgence per diem or commit to brief, invigorating ambulations each morn, irrespective of external circumstances. In the context of a demanding work period, you could pledge a mere 15 minutes to your creative project each evening, even if it necessitates a late hour. These are preemptive Thrive stratagems. They function as the robust foundation laid for a dwelling before the tempest descends. The transition from the performance of disciplined actions to the embodiment of a disciplined identity is a captivating metamorphosis. It is achieved through the crucible of repetition and a conscious communion with your core values. When you consistently select the more arduous, yet ultimately more rewarding, path, your neural architecture begins to recalibrate, forging new pathways. It is akin to hewing a fresh trail through an impenetrable forest. The initial passages are arduous, but with each subsequent traversal, the path becomes more discernible and less demanding. The Lotus Method orchestrates this intricate process through its clear, sequential directives. By anchoring yourself to your purpose root, fortifying your self-control stem, and refining your focus bloom, you are actively demonstrating to yourself your inherent capacity to act in concert with your aspirations. This repeated affirmation of success, however incremental, cultivates self-efficacy, the profound conviction in one's own ability to prevail. As this belief flourishes, your self-concept undergoes a subtle yet significant alteration. You begin to internalize these actions not as external impositions, but as reflections of the individual you are progressively becoming. You might find yourself articulating phrases such as, "I am the sort of person who sees things through," or "I am someone who prioritizes my well-being." This linguistic framing is potent, for it shapes the contours of your reality. The Lotus Method does not merely impart the mechanics of discipline, it facilitates your evolution into a disciplined individual by consistently reinforcing your capabilities and aligning your actions with your burgeoning identity. The odyssey of discipline is a lifelong expedition, and the Thrive stage marks the true commencement of reaping the fruits of your sustained endeavors. It is about so deeply embedding these practices that they become an organic, joyous constituent of your very being. As we integrate the tenets of the Lotus Method into the very warp and woof of our lives, we discover that sustained discipline not only facilitates goal attainment, it fundamentally reconfigures who we are. This emergent identity, rooted in consistent action and self-mastery, unlocks the gateway to a more profound exploration of our latent potential and the impact we can exert upon the world around us. The subsequent chapter will embark on an exploration of this outward-facing dimension of our growth, elucidating how to harness our cultivated discipline for amplified purpose and contribution. Conclusion: you have embarked upon a profound expedition, one dedicated to forging the very bedrock of significant achievement, discipline. This endeavor transcends the mere absorption of words. It is the resolute, unwavering action that breathes life into them. we have illuminated how discipline, not the ephemeral flicker of motivation, serves as the true engine of advancement, and how the Lotus Method offers a robust architecture for its potent deployment. Far from being a constraint, discipline is the ultimate liberator, bestowing upon you the agency to sculpt your own reality. Just as the lotus ascends from murky depths to unfurl in resplendent beauty, so too will your discipline emerge from the crucible of challenge, transforming adversity into a launchpad. Your root is the genesis of discipline, a crystal-clear purpose, an environment meticulously curated to champion your aspirations, and the foundational microhabits that generate inexorable momentum. This unshakable base fortifies your discipline, rendering it impervious to external buffets. The stem represents the burgeoning strength of your self-control, the daily, deliberate choice to prioritize enduring rewards over immediate indulgence. Employing elegant stratagems to sculpt this inner fortitude. Through Bloom, you master the art of channeling focused attention, dedicating your disciplined energies to endeavors of genuine consequence, liberated from the siren call of distraction. Finally, Thrive is where discipline transmutes into a vibrant, evolving force, propelled by the meticulous tracking of your progress and the conscious alignment of your actions with your evolving self-concept, thus weaving it into the very fabric of your being. Bear in mind, these stages are not discrete milestones to be conquered and then abandoned, but rather interconnected pillars, mutually reinforcing. A robust root nourishes the stem, a resilient stem enables focused bloom, and a flourishing bloom solidifies your identity. The ultimate aim is a seamless transition from the conscious application of the method to an intrinsic embodiment of its principles, rendering discipline a natural, almost effortless state. There will be days when motivation falters, when dormant habits reassert their insidious influence, or when life unleashes unforeseen tempests. It is in these moments that your cultivated discipline, the very prowess this book has helped you hone, emerges as your most formidable ally. The essence lies not in an unbroken ascent, but in the swiftness and efficacy with which you regain your footing. When you falter, return to your root to re-establish your why. Invoke the strength of your stem to resist the impulse to capitulate. Re-engage bloom to recalibrate your focus. And trust that Thrive is about the steadfast return, not the absence of stumbles. The habit you have diligently nurtured this week is but the nascent stage. The Lotus Method stands as a blueprint for a lifetime of intentional evolution. With discipline as your unwavering companion, you ascend to the role of architect of your own existence, designing it with deliberate intent, profound purpose, and unshakable resolve. The odyssey toward mastery is perpetual, and the indispensable tools now reside within you. Embrace your discipline. Tend to it with care. Allow it to be the compass that guides you toward the life you ardently envision. Go forth and bloom.